The imagination sweaters are another great tutorial right here on Mikey's Mail. This is one of those tutorials where the actual pattern acts like a template. You can design the sweater any way you want. You can change the color of the sleeves or the body. You can change it at any point and make stuff to actually match your sweater. That's why I call it the imagination sweaters, because they're so versatile. Creativity is what it's all about here at Mikey's Mail. One thing that's perfect about my tutorials is that you can find other tutorials in order to match the outfits that you want to do. Say maybe do a baby's hat with matching baby booties. You just have to look for the tutorials, change the colors to match your outfit, and voila, you have now created a new ensemble for any newborn baby. On my website, there's a master list linking all projects to YouTube. So if you're looking for something specific, just come on over to my website and I'll show you where it is.
I'm only doing this is my first ever baby sweater. I have been trying to make one of these for like a year and I finally did it. I know that's so obscene. Dad just had to put some man apps in the middle of this thing so when I opened it up all these man apps would come out because Lord knows I don't have it. So this is my first ever baby sweater. Isn't it cute? On the live broadcast on Sunday evening at 7 p.m. we talked about me struggling to do a baby sweater, and so a viewer had some patterns that are a one pattern, like a one, you know, the problem, how do I explain it? You know, a lot of the sweaters you have to do a separate collar and separate sleeves and body and yoke area and then attach it all together. Okay, honey, I don't do that, okay? That is just too complicated for me. I want something simple, something that I can teach. And voila, she gave me a simple baby sweater design. And I just love it. So the sleeves, yes, you have to add those on after. And you have to, and yes. So anyway, so yeah, so the body and the collar and everything are one. And then the sleeves are separate. Now, I did one of the sleeves 5 times because I did the one sleeve, which was this one here, and then I did the other side, but it was like really much bigger, like width-wise, because honeys, if you screw up right on the diameter and you go to do it properly on the next one, and then you end up with the size that is like completely wrong. So I'm going to show you what the pattern is that I did for this, but then what I'm going to tell you to do is just alter on how you're doing the sleeves. I think that it's too, when you go to join them and slip stitching, it's too easy to forget or add a stitch, therefore you get the wrong size, and I don't know what that cat's meowing at behind you, but anyway, so this is my first ever baby sweater, and I just think it's adorable. Now what I am missing at the top is just a little button, and just one button at once, according to the pattern. And so you can add that if you wanted to. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I gotta learn how to gay this up. Now that I figured out how to do it, because that was my problem, I couldn't figure out how to do it, I'm gonna go count my lines, and then I'm gonna see how I can make it gay-tastic. Because you know what? Who wants boring snoring? But this is an alteration, though, from the original pattern. I've used 2 material strings at the exact same time, so 2 strings as one. And so this makes it really heavy and thick. You can see it does, like the thickness of this sweater. You know, because I've designed hats where you've just used 1 string and you go to wear it and the wind is like blowing right through in the middle of the winter. So I figured, you know what baby's not going to want 2 strings, because these 3-ply wool from Bernat or Red Heart, you know, by using 2 strings you turn it into a 6-ply. So it becomes even heavier and heavier. And when you do use 2 strings as one, it does make your pattern slightly bigger. But on the tutorial that I'm going to show you, we're only going to use 1 string so that people don't get confused, because people have a hard time seeing and visualizing. And yeah, so that's it, my baby sweater. Now, honeys, I'm going to be thinking about how to gay this up with some colors and not bling bling, but I don't know. So that's what I'm thinking. When we're working on the sweater is actually a very simple design. It's just it's basically 3 pieces. It's the body of it and 1 sleeve and 1 sleeve. While we're working with this project, one thing that kind of surprised me is that we worked with the project upside down. So if you do the baby sweater here, like that, okay, when we're working from the top of the sweater down to the bottom. So we're actually working with the sweater upside down. Now the sweater does consist of 3 different parts. So we have the body here, which is number 1. We have the arms, and they're attached right here. Now, this is what's kind of confusing, but actually very, very simple, is that when we work with the first chain, right, you have 37 chains, right, and it just appears to be a straight line, but it's actually the starting of the collar. And it's on line number 2 is that we start establishing that the collar has a shape. And when the collar starts to take shape, it actually starts to look like this. So it starts to look like this, and this is the front of it where the opening is, and that's what it will look like. And this is what is actually pretty simple. If you know how to do granny squares, you'll know how to do this. Because what's going to happen, I believe it's for 7 lines, is that we're going to be working our way around this configuration. So what's going to happen, every time you go around, you're making it bigger. Right, and then coming back. Okay. And so the way that they have us doing the design of this sweater is that on the corners, it just gets, there's an actual extra 2 stitches to allow the material to grow. And on the actual pattern, you can actually see this when the child is wearing it. Now the way that I did my sweater with the 2 strings, you can't actually see those, but it's actually kind of a nice design feature. Once you get to a certain point of your sweater, this coloring doesn't make any sense. And I find the pattern was a little bit confusing, but I actually figured it out. And what they want us to do eventually, when we get to a certain point, is that we're going to be folding this collar in half. So we're just going to take the collar and just fold it. And where we're going to attach it is right on the interior point right here. So basically you have your sweater. Right? And so basically this part up here, it's not a separate piece, but I'm going to draw a line. It's not a separate piece, but in order to create this configuration, right, it has to be folded. So it comes down on an angle like that. And when you fold it and attach it just in the center points here, it leaves an opening right here on both sides. And because of the way that we have gone around it with the granny square, it actually leaves the stitches nice and clean so that you can actually see what the stitches are. Now one thing I did find with this pattern, it says that on the sleeves to go around 24 stitches. I found when I folded mine, I only had 20 stitches, and it actually creates a different size sleeve. So I'm going to be trying to figure that out before I do my tutorial on, because I don't think I did it wrong, I just think maybe I got to add a few extra stitches right at the very beginning. And so basically that is the eye concept. So you'll have a gap right in the middle, and if you want to attach a button at the top, you can do so. And so then basically we're going to come along and just add your sleeves to it. And it's extremely simple, and I hope you guys have some fun. So just remember, it's kind of like the granny square, and once you get that concept, the rest of this project just speeds along. It's very, very simple. And that's it.
Okay, so what I would recommend is go get your pattern. It's in the more information of this video. So if you look under Mikey's Mail in the top right hand corner of this current screen, you will see more information, and you will see a blue link. And you can click that, and this is the actual pattern for this thing. So wrap your material around your, I'm just using a 3-ply Bernat wool today, and I'm using a J size hook. So wrapping around your twice, okay, and then pull over and push up. Okay, and there's your first hook, your first loop. So it says, according to our directions, says chain 37. So this counts as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, and 37. So there's your first line. It doesn't look like much of a collar, but it'll be the next line that actually starts to create the shape. So do that. Now it says to double crochet in the third from the hook. Okay, so this is 1 from the hook, 2 from the hook, 3rd from the hook. Did you see that? So 1, 2, and 3 says, so a double crochet. So wrap your material around, going into the 3rd from the hook for 1 double crochet. So pulling your material through 2, and 2. And now it says double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So there's 1 stitch there. So let's put 4 double crochets into the next 4 stitches. So 1, looking for the next stitch, 2, 3, and 4. I'm just going to redo that 4th one there. 4. And now what it's asking for is double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch. So going into the very next stitch, double crochet. So, okay. Then it says to chain 1, so chain 1. And now it says to double crochet again into that exact same stitch. And by doing that, you're creating like a granny square corner. Is exactly what you need to do. Okay. So do you see how it kind of is doing an angle change? That's exactly what you're looking for. Now it says to double crochet into the next 4 chains. So let's double crochet another 4 in a row. Okay, this is your 4th. And now it says to double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So into the next stitch, we're going to double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet into the same stitch. And again, that's just doing an angle change again. So now what it says is to double crochet into the next 12 stitches. So let's do 12 in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And now it says to double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So into the next stitch, you're going to double crochet, chain one, and then double crochet into the exact same hole. Okay, and now it says to double crochet into the next four. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then it says to double crochet, chain one, double crochet. So to the next stitch, double crochet, chain one, double crochet into the same stitch. Okay, and now it says to double crochet into the remaining 6. So let's see if we did it right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, and 6. So there you go. So every time we did the chain one, double crochet, chain one, what we were doing is we were creating the angle turning of this thing. And now it's not going to look like it makes sense right now, but that's because we haven't got that far along. So be patient. And piece of paper, you're going to want to write 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and these represent the next lines that we are going to be doing. Now on the actual pattern it says skip chain 3 space double crochet la 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 la, and you know what, I have no idea what they're asking for, but I was managed to able to get my sweater done. So what I'm going to tell you to do is chain up 3. We're going to double crochet. So chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3. And what we're going to be looking for is every time that we've done the chain, so we're looking for that gap. So when you double crochet these things, this chaining up 3 counts as the very first one. See how that kind of lines up? So you don't want to put another one right down on the bottom of that, a double crochet, because what happens is that you end up creating 2 stitches into the same hole, just like so, and that's not exactly what you want. So when you go to start your line, you're gonna, that is counted as 1 unit, so go right over to the next one. So you're going to double crochet going across, and every time you get to one of those gaps, see how I'm not even getting you to count stitches? This is what I love about this pattern. You don't need to count very often. So working our way, we're looking for that first gap. Okay, and the first gap is right there. So what we're going to do is that we're going to do that chain, we're going to do double crochet into the actual gap itself, so not the stitch, but actually into the gap, right in. So double crochet, just like we did before, chain 1, double crochet into the same gap, and that makes that gap very visual, and it's actually very desirable. So now we're going to just carry along, okay, and going to the next stitch, and we're going to double crochet until we run into the next gap again. And this is exactly how we do granny squares, if you remember, how we add extra stitches on the corners to allow the material to grow properly. So we're working away, and this will be considered line number 2. So looking for the next gap, which is coming up right after the stitch. Okay, you see it right there? So we're going to put 2, we're going to put a double crochet in there, chain 1, and a double crochet.
Okay, and now we're just going to work our way along again until we run into the next gap. But now we're working on the back of the sweater, and how can I tell when we did the 12 stitches? That is actually the back. And why did I pick yellow for this tutorial? It's just easier to see on the camera apparently. So just double crocheting. This project is so simple, honest to God. Okay, just working our way along. The next, okay, so we got one more, and then the gap shows back up. So you'll see the materials kind of doing a wild kind of turning. Don't worry about that. That will correct itself. So this is where the gap is. So going in for one double crochet, chain one, and into the same gap again to allow the material to turn. And now we're going to just double crochet again along. I've been calling it runway lately. So we're looking for the next gap that's going to come up. Okay, into the gap, chain one, okay, and then going along to the edge. So this will be line number 2. So on your piece of paper you'll have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So as you go along, just check off right beside each one that you've completed the line. So in this case we've done line number 2. I'm going to keep the video rolling as I go through those lines, but if you get that, the next, up until line number 6, this is exactly identical to what you're doing. Now in the very edge piece, what you have to worry about when you go in, don't go into that gap, or I have to come over there and hurt you. So what you got to do is you actually literally got to go into the actual stitch, because ladies and gentlemen, if you go into that gap, okay, what's going to happen is that it's going to pull it apart like this. So what you need to do is go into the actual stitch, and that pulls the material properly. Okay, and there we go. So this is completion of line number 2, and that's what it will look like so far. This is working on line number 3, and if you decided to stay with me, well, welcome back. So we're just going to chain up our 3 like we normally did for double crochet to start the next line, and we are going to, remember what I said, you're not going to go into the bottom of that one, we're going to go into the very next. Okay, so we're going to double crochet our way across this line, and every time we get into a gap we are going to put a double crochet, chain, double crochet. So I'm just going to go at my regular speed for the next few lines because it's all identical. Okay, the gap is the next one, so in the gap, okay, chain one, and then in the gap again to allow the material to turn, and then just whipping across again the runway, double crocheting into every stitch until you get to the next gap. Okay, then gap is the next one, so in the gap, chain one, and in the gap again to allow the material to turn. And now we're working along the back runway, so we're just going to continue along until we run into the next gap. So we're actually working the back of the sweater at this point, and it's no longer 12 stitches across the back because we've been growing this like a granny square, so it's been getting bigger and bigger, which is exactly what you're looking for. Okay, and the gap is coming up, not quite yet, but it will be. Okay, the gap is the next spot. So into the gap, double crochet, chain 1, into the gap. And double crochet again along the runway until we run into the next gap. Okay, the gap is next. So into the gap, chain 1, into the gap. And now we're just making our way to the edge. I will say that working with one material versus the two that you see in the background is a lot easier. The material doesn't give me such a problem, but I like the look of the two strings as one. Okay, so into the end stitch, oops, double crochet into the end stitch, and that was completion of line number 3. So check that off on your paper. Rotating your material, chaining up 3, we are going for line number 4. So chain up 3, and every time we run into the gap, you know what to do. Okay, that's where the gap is. So into the gap, chain 1, into the gap. And now we're just going to work along the runway again until we get to the next gap. You can really start to see this project growing, and it's growing equally, and it's growing really quite nice. Okay, into the gap, so 2, chain 1, into the gap. Okay, working our way along again. We're working now on the back of the sweater. And we'll just keep going along until we see the gap. I wouldn't say that this material is a yarn pig either. You used up quite a bit of material doing my 2 strings as one, but it's using 2 balls at the same time, so. Just Okay, into the gap, chain 1, into the gap. Working our way again. Okay, the gap is next, so into the gap. Working our way to the edge. And this will be completing a line number 4. And into the edge stitch. Don't forget that. So line number 4 is complete. And now you really start to see the collar taking shape. Turning your material, now going into line number 5. Chaining up 3, 1, 2, and 3. And going back across the runways, and every time you get to a gap, double crochet, chain, double crochet into the gap. And this is line number 5, so hopefully you've checked that off on your little sheet. Unfortunately, it's the best way to, well, fortunately, it's the best way to keep track of your stitches is to continue to write down and check off as you go. Because it beats sitting here and counting down the lines. Okay, so the gap is the next one. So into the gap, chain 1, into the gap. So you really can see the turning of there, which is exactly what you're looking for. So let's work our way through the runway again. This is again line number 5. Okay, now into the gap, so in, chain 1, into the gap. And continuing along the runway, we are now working along the back of the sweater again. Okay, we're looking for the next gap, but of course we're on the back of the sweater, so we know it's not for a little bit. Okay, into the gap. into the gap. So we chained one and then into the gap again, and then working our way across the runway. So work it, girls and boys. Okay, the gap is coming up, not this one but the next. So into the gap, double crochet, chain one, into the gap again, and we just double crochet to the end of the line at this point, and this will be completion of line number 5, and make sure you check that off on your paper. Okay, number 5 is complete, and that's what it's starting to look like at this point. So you really can start you see the turning of the collar. So turn your material, and now let's chain up 3 again, and this will be the last line we do like this. So just chaining. So this is line number 6, and it gets interesting from this point forward, because then we start to fold this material like I told you in the whiteboard demonstration, that we get to a certain point where we actually then fold. And this is kind of exciting because then you really start to see your pattern take shape. And because it's a baby sweater, this is not a long project. Okay, the gap is next, so into the gap. Because I'm working with one material this time instead of 2, you're really going to start, you really do see the patterning a lot better than you would on the 2 lines when, like the gaps in between the edging, because you can kind of see it there, but it's not very as clear as it is here. And it all depends what you're looking for in the I guess the warmth. Okay, working our way along. We're now working our way along the back of the sweater. This is, remember, line number 6. And it was a gap, so double crochet, chain one, double crochet, and this is line number 6. I'm going to get to a certain point where I'm going to just set you loose and get you to do, and what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how this is folded and attach it, and then basically from that point to the bottom of the sweater it's exactly identical. You just got to work your way down, and there's no point me filming all those lines to go down. There's not that many, but there's no point me filming that because it's just the same lines over and over and over and over with no variation. Besides, it gives me a chance to have my cereal for breakfast and allows my camera to recharge so I can continue along. So that was a gap, chain one, gap, and continuing along to the edge. Daniel, I think there might be a voicemail.
What's this?
I think there might be a voicemail.
Okay. No.
Okay, and that was the end of line number 6. So there you go. So this is what your thing will look like. So there's the back of the sweater there. Okay, so okay, row number 7 is the one that is unique, and this is where we are going to take the material and we are going to fold it. Okay, so what's going to happen here is that we are going to, so you see it's like this. There's the back, there's the one angle and the one angle, and what we're going to do is that we're going to fold it, okay, so that these two angles here come together. And by doing so, right, it creates the sleeves for the spot, and that's what you'll end up with. So let's go across this line and we'll show you how to do that. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to work our way to the first gap and then just wait for me there if you're going to speed along. So just double crochet your way to the first gap. Okay, so we're almost there.
Trying to get into your pocket.
Okay. And now one more. Okay, so this is the first gap. So what you're going to do is double crochet into that gap. Okay. We just did chain 1, then go to the other gap. So fold it like so. Okay. So now you can see it from this side. So what you're going to do is just go in like so. So wrap double crochet going in, pulling it through, pulling it through. So by doing that, you've just created now the sleeve hole. So now we're just going to work our way, continue across. Okay. So we're double crocheting across the back. So when we get to the next gap, we're going to be doing the exact same thing. And it's at this point where you really start to see your sweater take shape. So I'm going to be doing one more line with you on here, and then I'm going to set you free to do the remainder of the base of this sweater, because it's, again, it's identical lines all the way down. Okay, so there's the gap. So into the gap for double crochet. Okay, chain one, and now fold it. Okay, so you're just taking it and folding it, and then just go right into the gap on this side. So right into the gap, pulling it, oops, wrap your material into the gap, pulling it through and through, and then keep going to the end. And now you've just created the sleeves on this side, the sleeve hole. So that was line number 7 complete, and now that you can see it, you really can start seeing the shape of it. So you see your holes here for the sleeves. You see this is the front of it. Starting on line 8, we're going to chain up 3 like we did, 1, 2, and 3, and working our way across. And now this time we don't have any sleeves to worry about, right? So when we get to the gap where you see the attaching, it wants us to chain 1 in between, and there's a reason for that, is that it allows us to chain, allows us to leave a little bit of a gap to attach your sleeve material to. And I think it gives the baby a little bit more flexibility in the sweater by leaving that gap as well. So I'll show you how to do that when we get there, and we're almost there. So this is line number 8. Okay, so there's a gap right here. That's where it's attached, so it says to chain 1, and then jump across to the next stitch across that gap. Do you see that? So then you end up with like a square gap in between, and that's exactly what you're looking for. So just keep going across, and then when you get to the other one, do the same thing, and this will be line number 8. I'm actually going to go one more because I want to show you what you have to do with that gap. And then I'll set you free to do up until line 17, which is the very bottom, which you're just going to follow the directions and just finish it off. So we're actually working the back of the sweater at this moment. Okay, remember what we said, we got to the last one, we want to chain one and then jump across that gap. So you end up with a kind of like a box. That's exactly what you're looking for. Okay, we're just going to finish up this line. That was line number 8. Okay, so that's what you got so far. Turning your material, we're going to go for line number 9. Now on your piece of paper, what you'll want to do is write 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So this will be line number 9, and as you go, this will be the last line that I'm going to show you for the body of it, and then just work your way down that list of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And once you've gotten to 17 lines, then end your material and finish the body off, but just tying it off at the end. Okay, so I'm only showing you number 9 here because I want to show you what you're doing with the gap when you get to it, because this is the last time you'll be dealing with that gap, and the rest of the lines you're just going to be sailing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth up until line 17. And again, I don't need to show you that because it's all identical. You just have to do it. And it doesn't take that long. So in the gap where we've left off, we're just going to go right into the gap itself. And this is the last time you'll ever see that gap for the body part. So just working your way across. This is line number 9. You know, nothing's stopping you either from making different colors of sleeves or whatever, or even changing the colors if you know how to do that. You could have done that in this project at any time. The sky is the limit. Okay, we're almost to the gap again. So we're just going to go into the gap itself, double crochet, and then into the next stitch. So then this gap on this side is gone now too. And we are coming up to the end of line number 9, so you just have line number 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And again, on a piece of paper, write those numbers down and then just check them off as you go. And it's just an easy way to maintain count. And you're just going back and those would just be going back and forth. So once you get that done, then we can work on the sleeves together. Okay, and into the side stitch. So there you go. So that's line number 9, and now you can really start seeing it take effect. So you have your little sleeveys, right, with the gap, which is what you're looking for. And there's the back of the sweater there. Okay. So it's really turning out pretty cool. So after you get line 17 done and worked your way all the way down, this is what your sweater will look like. And so you can leave it at that if you wanted to, just to have a sleeveless sweater for a child. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one of the sleeves off camera and then do the other one on camera with you, because whatever I show you with the sleeves, you're just going to do it basically twice, right? One on each side. So this here is double material. This is just one material, and you can see the double material is actually a little bit bigger. So if you want a bigger sweater, then you can double up your material, but it's also much heavier as well than this one here. So, and then I got an idea to convert this into a little bumblebee sweater after I get this tutorial done. So let's go one thing at a time, and I'll be doing the sleeves next. Okay, like I discussed before, I did one of the sleeves off camera, and I am converting this baby sweater into a bumblebee sweater. So I don't care what color you make it. If you want to do the sleeves the same color as the body, that is certainly your business. So I'm going to show you how to make the sleeve now. And if you want to do something creative like this, then you're more than welcome. I'm going to be decorating this particular sweater, including the back of the sweater, into a bumblebee look-alike. So just follow along, and then you can just, if you're just doing a regular sweater, just stop it when you got the sleeves done. And you don't have to change the color at the end. That's certainly, because I'm making a bumblebee sweater, that's what I want for this one. So carry along, and I'll show you what to look for next. Okay, so now we're going to attach the sleeves. So you're going to get your color that you've selected. I'm sorry that I'm choosing black, but I know black is really hard to do a tutorial with, but I'm going to do it anyway, so sorry about your luck. So obviously you want to attach your sleeve the same way this side. You want to attach it on the same side, because if you obviously attach it from here, it's going to be on the wrong side. So what we want to do is turn the material, okay, so that, remember we talked about having a hole in there? That's exactly where we want to attach our material. And what we need to pay attention to the most, ladies and gentlemen, is the number that you go around the very first time, because you got to determine what that number is. And so if you've made a mistake at any point along the way and it's different on both sides, you can compensate. So this one here happens to have 21 stitches going around. So even if this hole is slightly bigger and it can allow 22 stitches, or it's not big enough and only allows 20, I want to maintain the 21, because the 21 is the desired thickness to make this particular sleeve. So that is really critical at this point. So that's what we need to do. So once you do it the first time, make sure you count and then write it down on a separate piece of paper. And what you need to do is, on a separate piece of paper, is label the numbers 1, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and as you go along, just check it, just check off. And what we're going to do with this, in variation to the first pattern that I have given you, that is this one, is that we're going to be changing the way that you were doing the sleeve. I hate doing slip stitches because you can see them. So by here I went around and around and around in a continuous circle, and by that you got perfect arms. So we're going to be doing that here on this one as well. So let's go on, and we're going to be attaching our material to this particular hole in the next video. Okay, so we just want to grab our crochet hook, okay, and what we're going to do is just make a loop with your finger, and you're going to stick your needle in that armpit hole. And remember, we're working on the outside, so this is the outside of the sweater, just like so. So we're working with the outside of it. Okay, and you've determined the outside basically the first time you ever put on a sleeve, so you make sure you take a look before you determine which side to put it on. Doesn't matter which side of the sleeve you do first, what side, left or right, it doesn't matter as long as they're the same. So stick your needle in the hole, like so, and through that armpit hole. So, and just pull your needle through, and pull, and just grab your material, and pull that through. So that'll secure your very first stitch. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to chain up 2. So 1 and 2. So now we want to go and look for the next stitch, and because this was the outside of it, we can see every stitch along the way. This is the straggler, ladies and gentlemen, so we want to secure that into space. So it doesn't matter how many times what exactly stitches that we get them pretty close, but make sure it is the same on both sides. And make sure that straggler is down on the first line, just like so, and wrapping it around and trapping it into position. And we are going to double crochet our way around this hole. And remember, because the other side for me is 21, I want 21 on this side as well. So if you did not get 21, maybe you got 20, maybe you got 25, doesn't matter, as long as it's the same on both sides. Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have one sleeve that is too big or too small, depending how you look at it. Depends if you're optimistic or not. So we're just going to crochet our way around the hole. Oops, excuse me. And I'm sorry that it is black, but I'm going to be making the coolest bumblebee sweater after this tutorial is done. And I wanted to do, I don't want to make a separate sweater just to show you how to convert it to a bumblebee. So I'm just converting the sleeves over to the color of the bumblebee. But if you want whatever color, if you wanted a solid color, hey, that's your business. So you know what works for you. I just think the little honeybee or something, I want to call it something cute. I might put this on the Facebook to have people come up with a name. So we're just going to work our way around, and as soon as we get close to the end, I'm going to count my stitches and make sure there's at least 21 or close to it, and then make sure I'm finishing off on 21. And remember how I said to you that I hate slip stitching? There's no slip stitching in this particular sleeve pattern that I am doing. It says to do it on the pattern, but honeys, I'm not doing that. I just make too many mistakes. I end up with one sleeve that's the wrong size, and you know what? I could kill somebody. Okay, so let's count our stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I gotta fit in 2 more stitches to make 20. And so 1 more. So there's your 21. Now what we're going to do is that I'm going to push pause on this video, and you can go to the next one. And what you want to do is on your piece of paper where you wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, tick off number 1. The first round is done, and we're going to be doing 10 of these rounds. So if you want to go around, every time you pass the armpit hole, you are going to count 1. So let's go on to your next video. And you're going to want to watch the next one anyway, because this is a continuous. So what we want to do is that we're not slip stitching. So this is what it looks like right now. So what we want to do is double crochet into the top of the first stitch over here. So we're just going to jump. And yes, it doesn't make it equal. You're going to see that it's going up like a spiral as a result of doing this. But you can compensate for this down the road. So don't worry about it right now. So we're going to double crochet it right into the top of that. I didn't get the top. Into the top of that stitch there. 1 and 2. So you can see it's a little abnormal just the way it looks. See how it's kind of going up? That is fine as long as you maintain the 21. So what we're going to do is go all the way around, again double crochet around, and when we get back to the armpit hole we are going to check off the number 2 on our piece of paper. So that's all you need to do. So if you don't want to hang out with me for the next few videos to go around the 10 times, then by all means go out on your own. And after row number 10, row number 11, which is my own creation, I've just changed the pattern to a half double crochet to do the actual ends. And because we are doing the spiral, I also, if you don't want to change the color, I also have changed the actual stitching on row number 10 for the last quarter of it in order to compensate, because it is spiraling and you're going to see the spiral. I changed it to half double crochet and then a single stitch to make it look like it's just blending properly. So going around the hole, double crochet. And what we're going to want to do on this one, because this is the second one, we're going to want to check to make sure that the width is actually the same. But we can't really check it yet because there's not enough to do it. So we're just going to fold it, the sweater in half, put the arm sleeves up together and see if they actually match. Okay, so there's the armpit hole coming up, and right there. The next one is jumping over. So on your piece of paper, I want you to write 2. Going for the third round, we are double crocheting, and we just stopped at the armpit hole so that we could mark number 2 off as being done. So we're now on row number 3, just going in a continuous circle. This part of the crochet, just like the sweater, is not a big deal for time-wise, but this part of the crochet is actually really simple. Just in a continuous circle. We want to keep it simple. Not, who wants complicated crafts? Nobody. So we're just working our way around and around. So I kind of had a really wild day today, and holy jeez, I was so glad to get home. Just nothing happened to me in general, but it was just kind of stressful. So I've been kind of wanting just to kick back and watch TV, but you know what, I just feel like I need to do something with my time. So I figured tonight is a Friday night, Daniel's at a party, and everybody knows that I work weekends, which is including right now, even though I'm crocheting, that I figured I gotta do something useful other than watch TV. So I'm deciding to tape tutorials. So we are coming back to the armpit hole in just a few more stitches. And I would suggest after the 5th round that you really fold your sweater in half and check the width of your sweater. The sweater sleeve, I should say. Okay, and we are back in the start again. And how can I tell? If you look down the shirt, the armpit hole is right there. So let's, on our sheet of paper, let's mark off. Oops, let me just make sure that was right. Let's mark off number 3. Whoops, number 3 as being completed. Number 3. Going on to number 4. This is the 4th round. And we're just going to double crochet like we have been all along. I know, big shocker. This is one of the easiest patterns I think I've ever done. And it looks so cool. Like, I just can't wait to convert it to a bumblebee. And no, I don't know of any patterns to do it. What I'm going to do, this is my little secret, is I'm going to cable crochet over top of the yellow. So it's kind of like a canvas, you know how you're painting and then you get sick of the color, so you paint over the pink with a red or something. This is exactly what we're going to do by using material. We're going to crochet over some of the yellow to create the black stripes of the bumblebee. And we're going to do it on the front and the back. So why I did the sleeves black? Because I think it kind of represents the legs of the actual bumblebee. And why did I put yellow at the end of the sleeve? For effect. It can't be totally realistic. I just think it's quite stunning colors together, black and yellow. So coming up to the armpit again. In other colors you can actually clearly see each line, but when you use black it's really difficult. So that's what I recommend, that you check off that piece of paper every time you go around. Okay, so we're at the armpit hole again, and we are going to check off number 4. Okay, starting up again, this is row number 5. And every time we rotate, going one all the way around, we are increasing the length of our sweater sleeve. And by doing it and you remember what I said in the very beginning, is that by just going around and around, you don't increase any stitches, you don't decrease any stitches, and it keeps it consistent and looking really fantastic. You know, and if the baby's arms are too long, then you know, what's the big deal? You know, they can just roll up the sleeve, and with the yellow on the end of the sleeve, that actually looks pretty sharp too. So either way, it's a win-win situation, I think. And we are completing to the end of the row 5, and what we want to do after this is that we want to fold it in half over the other one to make sure the size is the same, and it should be, because we had that magic stitch of 21. And again, remember, it's all fair, it's all up to you. As long as whatever you do on the other side, you have to do on this side. Okay, we are coming to the end of row number 5. Okay, so check off number 5. So what we want to do is now fold the sweater in half and check the width of the sweater. So you can see this matches this side pretty good, and the underside matches the underside. So we turn it over the other way, you can see these sleeves are identical. And honeys, that's just a fantastic thing. So on row number 5, we are doing fantastic. Starting row number 6. Again, it's half double crochet all the way around. We are going to row number 10, and the last quarter of number 10, we are going to be doing some changes up the stitches, because we're going in a continuous circle, see like that, there will always be something sticking up, just like so. So we have to compensate by changing our stitches in the last quarter of the last rotation to make it even, to bring balance. And where we want to do that, we want to focus it so that it is the bottom of the sleeve, so it is like the underside of the actual sleeve, so you don't see that there's a change in variation. See, there's a little change there, but you know, when on the front face of it you can't really see it, and on the back that I have to clean up, it's just a loose string, but you can't see it. But if you go underneath of it, you can't see it. So that is why we do that. You could have also changed the colors as you were going along on the actual body of the coat. The problem is that you end up with all these loose strings, and it's very difficult to hide them, because the front end of the sweater is basically what you see. So if you have all those strings starting in the front of the sweater, it's going to be very noticeable. Okay, so on your list, ladies and gentlemen, you're ticking off row number 6 as being completed. It's going for row 7. So just make our way around, double crochet again. And we are more than halfway through. And as you can see on the video timing, each row is about 2 minutes, so it's not very long time. It's just round and around and around. If you could also use markers, if you crochet markers. Those are the plastic little things to stick into the actual sleeve in order to know when you've gone all the way around. But for me, I'm just looking for that armpit hole that's in the bottom to give me an idea where I am in the crochet project. So whatever is easiest for you, I support whatever you want to do to make it easier. That's what this project should be, easy. Okay, we're coming up to the armpit hole again, and that will complete row number 7. So check that out. Going in for row number 8. Could also call this the baby bumbler. That'd be kind of cute. If you're unconfident at any point, stop at any line and check to make sure that your sleeve is the same size as the other one. So I have a little more confidence in this one. This is my second ever baby sweater, and I really struggled with the sleeves on the first one I ever did, and that's because they had to do those damn slip stitching. And that, to me, I understand the whole concept of it. I find it very difficult to maintain the stitch count. So this works so much better for me to go around and around. So ladies and gentlemen, please check off round number 9. Again, double crochet. Coming back up to the armpit hole, we are almost finished row number 9. And now remember what I said, row number 10 is going to be some slightly varied stitches on the end. It's not a pattern, it's just me just trying to straighten it out and I'd recommend following that at this time. So on your sheet, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to write completion number 9. So check off number 9. Okay, we're going to go on row number 10. So what we want to do is we've got to look in advance to when we're coming back around to the actual finish of row number 10. And it's close to where we want to finish off, right? So I would suggest maybe 5 stitches before you come to an end. Okay, and so at the 5th stitch before the end, you're now going to want to do a couple half double crochets. Okay, so when I get there I'll show you. So a couple half double crochets, a couple single crochets, and then finish off with the slip stitch. And that should bring balance to the sleeve at the end. And what we want to do before we finish it off is that we're going to convert it over to, like I have a yellow on the external, on the other side on the very last. So I want to do that. I want to do the same with that too. Okay, so we're coming near, so this is the end. Okay, so this is near the end. So we're just looking to where we're going to start that half double crochet stuff. And just eye it out, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a, this is not rocket science. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're the 5th stitch before I'm going to finish. So wrap your material around going into the next stitch. Okay, going in, and this is a half double crochet. We're going to pull it all the way through the 3. Okay, let's do a couple of those in a row. So the next stitch, a half double crochet. Okay, now the next 2 stitches we want to do a single crochet. So in, and then pull, and then into the next stitch, and pull. So you're just looking at it. Are you coming near to the end? Yes, we are. So what we want to do is a slip stitch. So slip it, okay, through. And you can do another one if you want to. So slip it and through. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut our black over here, thing like I normally do, and I'm going to grab my yellow material because I'm going to finish off with the yellow. Okay, so looping it in, pulling it through. Okay, and what we want to do is get that black straggler up so we can see it. And now hold, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a half double crochet all the way around, and we are completely done the sleeve. So go to your next video. In bin and hold, so we're going to crochet or chain up 1. Okay, so just 1. And you see how it's kind of looking like it's chaining up 2, but it's actually only chained up 1. So we're going to half double crochet all the way around. So go into the very next stitch available. Okay, put your stragglers on top of the line, so it's the black and the yellow on top. So then wrap your material around and through, and then pull through all 3. Whoops, I missed. So going into the next stitch, okay, your stragglers are on top. Okay, pulling through. Now you have 3 stitches. Pull through all 3 at the same time. Okay, so let's go again. So wrapping your material around to the next stitch, make sure your stragglers are on top. And by your stragglers on top, it's locking those strings into position so they can't fall out. And it's a great way of not having to tie your crochet. So let's go all the way around, and this is row number 11, ladies and gentlemen. And this will be the final row. So stragglers on top. You're just going to keep putting those stragglers on top until you can't see them anymore, until they've run out. And the stragglers don't need to be too long, but long enough to hold it into position. Okay, so the stragglers are now done. So now we're just going to continue. And by changing it to a half double crochet at the end, it's causing the material to kind of bend in, which is kind of like the way that a sleeve normally does with a nice, what's that called? You know how in the wrists area, use a shirt or something comes in with elastic? Well, by changing the material by changing the stitches, what we're doing right now, it's causing that to naturally happen on its own. And because I'm doing the bumbler formation with this sweater, is that this color transition at the end just totally makes this sweater look from drab to fab. So this is the end of the sweaters, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to do the other side, go do the other side, and if you just leave it as is, that's up to you. And I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. For the expert people that want to move on, then you're just going to keep going. So what we're going to do at this point, you have like a hole in the gap, so you're going to just go into the stitch, the yellow one again, okay, and you're going to slip stitch it. So just grabbing your, just going in, pulling it through and through, right? And then what I would do is go into the next stitch again, coming in and just slip stitch it one more time. And now you have a sleeve. This is a straggler, but we're going to trim that when we're done. And now you have the end of your sleeve. So to finish this off, you're just going to cut your yellow. Okay, pull it through, pull it nice and tight, and then just like anything else, we always weave it back into the crochet, right? So just sticking your needle into the top stitches, grabbing the material, pulling it through, okay, throwing it back behind, sticking your needle, and then pulling it through again. And then back behind, sticking your needle in, and you can keep going until you think it's enough, or you run out of one of the two. Because if you think you've gone long enough in weaving it, then you can just stop. So what you want to do is you want to pull it so you know that if anybody pulls it any further, it's actually not going to fall out. And of course the black is straggling out, so we're going to trim that as well. And pull that. And there you go. There's the end of your sleeve, and if I've done things right, you've got two arms. Right? You got two arms in the sweater, and it's looking well, this is the end of my tutorial, and this is a regular baby sweater. And if you wanted to keep, you don't have to change the color of the arms. Like I said, you could just have maintained a normal color. You could have used all pink or blue. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to convert this now into a baby bumbler sweater. And what I'm going to do is that on the back end, I'm going to put on some stripes. So I got the material already done, and this is called like cabling. And what I'm going to do is just, it's like painting. You're just going to use another color and going over the top of the yellow to create the striping effect. And I think this is just so adorable. So this is my baby bumbler. Oh, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a trim of black around the top and on the bottom as well. And we're going to continue to convert this sweater over. And I hope that you've really enjoyed this tutorial, as this has actually been a lot of fun for me. It's one of those more fun projects that I've been doing in a while. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you later.